So, how you doing? It's Thursday and it's my turn to make a video, and this week's theme is Star Wars. First of all, I would really like to apologise for what Tuesday's video was. In case you haven't seen it, basically Bronwyn, our friend Becquerel, and me decided to make a video that we had an original plan, but it sort of went to pot and it ended up just being a complete outtakes video. So if you haven't seen that, check it out. I'll link it here and down in the doobly-doo. So, Star Wars. Star Wars is an interesting thing. Now, there are 6 Star Wars movies if you don't include animated ones. The first 3 Star Wars movies to be released was Star Wars Episode 4, 5 and 6. In case you haven't seen Star Wars, that might confuse you a bit. Hold on, the 4th, the 5th and the 6th one got released first? Yes it did. You see, back in, I think it's 1977 the first one was released, they just released a film called Star Wars A New Hope. But then they released another one and called it Star Wars Episode 5. People were a bit confused, but the thing is, George Lucas had a plan. He sort of knew that he wanted to do an Episode 1, 2 and 3, but he didn't have the technology to do it. So basically I'm going to give you a plot summary of the Star Wars films. So basically Star Wars Episodes 4, 5 and 6 follow the story of a young man called Luke Skywalker and his fight against the Empire and Darth Vader. Spoiler alert, in the 5th film it turns out that Darth Vader is in fact Luke Skywalker's father. At the end of Star Wars Episode 6, Luke defeats the Emperor of the Empire, and unfortunately Luke's father, Darth Vader, or Anakin Skywalker, as he was once known, is dead. Now, fast forward for a while to the year 1999, where George Lucas releases the King of Anticipation, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Now, this film begins with Qui-Gon Jinn and his young Padawan, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now, Obi-Wan Kenobi was in Star Wars Episode 4 as an old, so we see him a far younger Obi-Wan. They meet a young boy called Anakin Skywalker, and Qui-Gon Jinn discovers that he has great powers with the Force. And there's a small war against a droid army, and Anakin becomes a Jedi, and Qui-Gon Jinn dies. A few years later we get Star Wars Episode 2, which is set when Anakin is in his late teens. Anakin is now a Padawan, and Obi-Wan Kenobi is a Jedi Knight. He now actually has the beard, like he did in Star Wars Episode 4. There is another battle with this, and we first discover it's the first appearance of something called the Clone Army, which are extremely similar to something called the Stormtrooper Army, which were part of the Empire in Star Wars Episode 4, 5 and 6. In Star Wars Episode 3, Anakin is now a Jedi Knight, and Obi-Wan Kenobi is now a Jedi Master, but things are starting to look a lot more Empire-y. There are large ships that seriously resemble the ships in Star Wars Episode 4, 5 and 6, and the Clone Army are starting to look far more like Stormtroopers. To cut a long story short, throughout this movie, Anakin turns towards the dark side and eventually becomes known as Darth Vader. In one final battle against his old master Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin loses many of his limbs, therefore requiring him to have a mostly robotic body and a life support system, giving him the iconic Darth Vader look. That was a bad explanation of Star Wars, but I couldn't think of anything else to do. So I'll see you guys next week. Yeah, I'll see you guys next week. So, goodbye, and don't forget to be awesome.